Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got a really exciting episode lined up today about Agentic AI. And today's guest is Zelle Steyn, a principal solutions architect at AWS. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
So, Zelle, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Believe it or not, I always wanted to be an animator. I come from a long line of artists, and that's what I wanted to do, or that's what I was interested in at the time. But then with graphic design also came programming classes, like courses for design and development of software. And I just kind of preferred that more. And that's sort of where I ended up. So I leaned more towards the programming career. I started off as a mobile framework developer for a bank in South Africa. And from there, I worked 10 years in IT consulting, in solution architecture, until I came to AWS.
What a story. And I can relate quite a bit because I was also very, very interested in animation growing up. As a matter of fact, I flipped the coin to determine if I was going to be an animation student or a data science student.
Did you really?
I did. So far,
you chose wrong. Data science, man.
Exactly. Well, that's what I wound up doing.
Oh, okay, good.
So fortunately, I can't complain about how things have turned out thus far. But animation's always been very near and dear to me. But at the same time, I think it was never quite wired for how my brain works. It required too much intense focus on drawing the same leg over and over and over to make a walk cycle. I simply didn't have the patience for it.
Yep. Yeah.
But I have a massive amount of respect for people in the animation industry. And I also feel like AI could really stand to innovate in that space as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's still room to grow there because, we can generate vectors, but maybe I'm missing something, but have you seen examples of HTML canvas generations of animations going across a screen with the technology is Flash is now something else, right? It's now...
it's like Animate now, I believe.
Animate, yes. I actually have that. I should know that. But I think that the next generation of that would be generating those projects so that you can import them into these systems and, start working with them. And I'm sure that our partners are working on things like that.
I think a really interesting topic, too, is we may not know what the future holds, but I think what's possible now is very exciting, right?
Yeah,
with Agentic AI. And I'd love to get kind of a quick maybe elevator pitch on precisely how you define Agentic AI in 30 seconds or less, even just a very short intro to what that is.
I think of a few different ways, but most recently I've been thinking of it as almost like a virtual team that you have. Each one of those team members has their own specialty and their own capability, and it's almost like a heist, right? Everybody has their skill set, and they need to be able to do their thing, and then everybody comes together, and then they end goal. I'm not robbing any banks, but in my dream team, we are solving complex workflows that require specialized skills that are maybe not done at the same time that eventually come together. And it doesn't all have to be automated. It can involve human intervention to either to a point where they're comfortable with allowing automation or always, right, have a human AI monitor in the loop.
I love the idea of an AI heist movie almost here with agents. Yeah. I'm imagining a lot of dodging lasers and carving into bank vaults. It paints a very vivid picture, but I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to hear about what excites you right now with tech.
Well, right now, Agentic AI, I think it excites everybody, but for different reasons.
So what kind of work have you been doing with Agentic AI lately?
So I work largely with advertising and marketing customers at AWS. I also work with media and entertainment customers. They're very closely related because they both work with ads, just from a different perspective. And the kind of work with Agentic AI I've been doing with advertising and marketing customers is largely around automating campaign planning, media planning, optimizing budget allocation for campaigns, proactively altering creatives or proactively changing messaging and copy if based on the audience that's looking at the ad. And it's really exciting because that kind of sophistication usually required having already prepared creatives, that you're going to show at each time, and a lot of processing power. And these days with Agentic AI, you can do so many things dynamically, and you can also, keep those things to use later on, especially in advertising. Very
cool. So there were a lot of announcements made at the New York Summit. Any that stood out to you? Anything that's your favorite that resonates with you?
Yeah, I like the concept of AgentCore. We have Bedrock agents, right? We've had it for a while. I think that what's great about AgentCore is that where Bedrock Agents has, like an account limit for scaling, like an account limit for how many invocations you can do in a minute, and rate throttling and all that. Whereas AgentCore doesn't have that limit because you can scale to any size you want. It also has an observability layer that we haven't really seen in any technology up until now. Where really one of the problems with Agentic AI up until now has been just being able to trace back the decisions of agents over time and have agents take into account those decisions when they're making suggestions, right? Even if it's not part of the same conversation or the same session or the same thread. And I think with AgentCore, that possibility now exists.
That's awesome. So what exactly would you recommend for folks who might want to get started with Amazon Bedrock AgentCore?
We have both options, right? And we also have strands. So strands is an easy way to deploy agents, and it doesn't have to be a specific model, a specific framework. It's open source, right? So we have that for, I would say, the more technical people who are not afraid of coding. For those that prefer to go into the console, I would say go play with Bedrock Agents, see what it can do. For those that are already getting ready for large-scale implementations, I would say go look at AgentCore. We do have some example projects up that our customers can try using right now with AgentCore.
Yeah, and you bring up an awesome point because we do maintain a really great repository of AWS samples, right? In the aptly named AWS samples repo on GitHub.
Yeah.
That gives you a lot of really great starting points when it comes to a lot of different products that we offer in our lineup of services at AWS. At this point, there's quite a few out there, right? Over 200. So it's a really great foundation for if you're interested in starting with a new service. Checking out the AWS samples repo can be a really strong starting point. And I'm curious, too, if there's any other of those sample repos that AWS maintains that has been useful for you as you've kind of learned a new technology, built out any demos?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a library of MCP servers that's it's constantly growing. I think one of the first ones that I played with was a Diagram MCP server. So I would just type in a serverless web app with an Angular front end and the DynamoDB database, whatever. And it just generates that diagram perfectly for you with the AWS logos and everything. There's also Q for Business Index, which you can use in agentic workflows. You can just integrate with those data sources. You don't have to copy them over to whatever RAG architecture you have. There's a step functions workflow that I really want to try out. Yeah, there are quite a few. There's also, I think, for our customers that are constantly wanting to look into their cost and usage reports and the financials. There's an MCP server for that as well, so they can just interact naturally, ask questions about their accounts.
Awesome. That's really exciting that we have all these resources available. And of course, there's always hands-on workshops that we offer as well, right? So there's a lot of different ways that users can get hands-on with this technology too. So are there any use cases that you've been involved with for Agentic AI recently that have been really interesting to you? Something that's maybe surprised you even?
Yeah. Well, so two things. I vibe code a lot. I've been using Q Developer since inception, and most recently Kiro. And most recently I started doing, and it's obviously the experience in Kiro is agentic, right? Even experience in Q Developer, if you have it as a plugin in Visual Studio Code, it's also agentic, right? Most recently I've been just falling head first and just trusting the AI to help me develop requirements, documentation, and synthetic data. And so I have a demo here where from the very beginning, I was just talking to it to generate synthetic data, generate agent instructions, basically generate a copy of it's theoretically what it's doing for me, right? Almost like creating itself again. That's kind of scary. But anyway, so I generated this whole thing, and I was just so surprised by how accurate it was at understanding these industry problems. And this was specifically for advertising and marketing. That's
fantastic. I'd actually, if you have it handy, I'd love to take a look at this demo that you built out too, just to get a feel for what you've built out with Agentic AI.
Yeah. Let's look at it. this is the Agents for Advertising demo. It's essentially a playground for testing the capabilities of agents that you have set up in the system and tweaking their instructions and their knowledge base connections and seeing what could come out of it. A lot of our customers have looked at this and they basically see a full solution because it's solving some of the real world business problems that they have, or at least assimilating some of those scenarios, right? What you're seeing in front of you is on the left, you have just the context, and that just means like, what does the agent think you're talking about right now? And we're looking at advertising use cases, right? So this use case is for media planning, which is related to how much budget, how much you're going to spend on each media channel for advertising, right? So the kind of user that would be using, like asking these questions would be a media planner from usually an agency side. And the scenario that I'm asking about here is about reallocating 40% of a $65,000 budget from traditional display, which is TV, to connected TV because of audience overlap with display and mobile video. So essentially, there are 4 agents here. The supervisor agent is called the outcome simulator agent. And then it has 3 other agents that are collaborators. So originally this demo was built with the purpose of real-time bidding simulation in mind. And in real-time bidding, the sub-steps of doing a bid are contextual analysis, understanding what's around the ad, optimizing the bid, and selecting the creative, right, that's going to load at that time. So that's essentially what these agents are doing, although there are many other use cases that agents could cover. The outcome simulator agent is really looking at, it's asking specifically, if I make this change, what do you think is going to happen? So each one of these agents is going back and they're doing what they're good at, right? So the strategy optimization agent, the outcome simulator agent saying, go analyze the ROI impact of reallocating this budget. And what the other agent, this optimization agent, has access to is a knowledge base of bidding histories, bidding outcomes, any kind of safety incidents, any kind of like historical data that you could put into an analysis to see like what are the pros and cons and what are the potential, what's the potential ROI versus the potential risk, et cetera, et cetera. And then the strategy optimization agent is saying, okay, well, let me go back and analyze this. So it's going to go and look for either the exact data that matches up with this campaign, or it's going to find something similar. It could be a similar audience. It could be a similar product. It could be both of those things. And then it will try its best to kind of infer what could possibly happen, but it would always tell the user if it's not exactly the same data, right? And so it's coming back, and then the contextual analysis agent is going and doing its thing, and it's looking at some of the creative templates and the performance reports for some of the creative templates and the audience performance and all the performance reports. And then the creative agent is the agent that would normally do the creative selection in a real-time bidding process. In this scenario, in this kind of theme, it is also giving advice on what the visual direction should be. So it's going back and it's looking at the campaign details and what creative templates are available and how they've performed over time. How should they be adapted? How can you maximize performance, et cetera, for CPM on CTV? And then it's coming back with, okay, these are my findings, right? And it's looking at its knowledge bases and all that. It's coming back with some recommendations for just the look and feel, a suggestion of what the imagery could look like. And what this shows is the agents are actually actioning code, right, in the middle of their flow. So this shows that you can use action groups as part of Bedrock agents to affect change in other systems, to integrate with MCP servers, to even integrate with, maybe you have another set of AgentCore agents running, right? So all of that could happen with action groups, which are essentially tools, right, that are being used. So, and it's actually still running its simulation in this example that I have open. Let's see if this one is done. Right, this one's done. So this is another scenario. This one was for cross-device attribution, which is essentially it's related to the devices that users use that have ads displaying and how much they're consuming those ads and how much of it was attributed to a specific device. So it's kind of adjusting those, and it's asking about what could happen. What do you see the before and after to be? It's going back. It's coming up with a plan. This is what you probably should do. It's all a phased plan. And then you see here are some pretty visuals here. And what these are JSON objects that came back in the response. And this is really to show that it doesn't just have to be a long chat with a lot of text that a user has to read, right? Because that doesn't help to just talk to a chatbot and have the chatbot try to tell you how to do your job better. You need more visuals to consume that information faster. You need more actionable, clickable events so that you can affect change in other systems, like I said before. So, you can always return results as structured data so that other systems can consume it downstream, like this UI is consuming the structured data and showing it nicely here. So again, here's some creatives that it's suggesting, and then this is the creative plan that it's coming up with. This is from the creative selection agent. And then at the end, the the outcome simulator agent is putting all of that together, considering everything. It might not always be the same as what they suggested. Like sometimes there's a variation because they have differing opinions, right? And then it comes up with a plan and a before and after and different budget allocations and success metrics. So the scenarios are in here. They're kind of just like pre-configured questions, but you can always type a question in here and specifically ask one of the agents, like creative agent, can you generate some visuals for this campaign? And then you can see here at the top here are the active agents. And the reason why this is shown and the reason why it's displayed like this is to kind of illustrate how the agents interact with each other in a multi-agent collaboration, because that's what this is. Because if you're just doing it, if you're running a test in the Bedrock agents UI, like the console, you'll see a bunch of XML that you have to kind of dissect. And it's very good for a technical resource, but to show this to customers and to have them understand what the back and forth conversation is and the rationale, I really thought that it's better to just have a UI for it. So that's essentially what this application does.
Brilliant. I'd love to hear a little bit too about how you were able to maybe expedite the process of building this out with AI as well. Was there anything that helped save some time there?
These days I have about 3 to 4 projects open that I'm vibe coding on. When I was setting this up originally, when it was just the backend agents and I was testing it in the testing window, setting up those 4 agents took... Yes, it took a little bit of talking with an LLM and getting some instructions generated. And then I went in and I set up the agents, and overall that took about 30 minutes to an hour to set up, right? Just the agent backend, right? So that means that if you talk to the outcome simulator agent on the Bedrock console, it's going to do this back and forth, and it's going to talk, and it's going to come back with results, but it's not going to display it here. So the UI part was... I just kind of decided, it was like a Sunday, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't show XML to people and expect them to understand it. So I just told the kids were like falling asleep, and I said, give me 20 seconds to write a prompt, please, so I can just generate the UI for this, and then I'll stop working, because I'm not really supposed to be working on weekends, but I do that sometimes. In any case, so the prompt went on, we got lunch, we came back. I knew it was done before we left, but I didn't look at it. And when we came back, it was pretty much what you're seeing in front of you, except not, without like the background picture and without some of the like color styling, but it looked really nice to begin with. And then I kind of just adjusted it over time. But I mean, everything, the context section, the scenarios window, all I had to do was just write, these are the components I want in the UI. I want you to use, I like Angular, so I told it to use Angular. I want you to use the Bedrock SDK for this part. I want you to integrate this one and this. And I also generated the infrastructure as code project, the CDK project, at the same time as doing this, which wasn't at that time fully complete. That took maybe another like day to really get it ironed out so that it would deploy this whole thing properly. I would say all in all, like from the beginning to the end with all of the enhancements today, probably about a week. Like if you were sitting down, heads down coding for about a week.
That's brilliant. And I think it's very exciting to see how much time you can save using Agentic AI as part of your normal development workflows too. Very impressive demo. Thank you so much, Zelle, for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So Zelle, my next question is, who do you think would benefit the most from this technology, and where should they go if they're interested in learning more?
So a lot of our customers have these kind of like SWAT teams that are doing Gen AI projects. So either those or engineering teams would probably benefit the most from this because these are building blocks. We build building blocks, right? We're not giving you the whole Lego Death Star built up kit. You get the blocks. So I think that engineering teams trying to innovate with Gen AI or trying to build POCs very quickly could get a lot of benefit out of this project that is going to be published. It's not yet, but we do have a lot of solution guidance published for advertising and marketing customers, as well as sample projects for agentic solutions. It doesn't necessarily have to be this industry. We mentioned the MCP samples. There are lots of resources online for just getting started very quickly. And I would tell our customers to just don't wait for requirements. Don't wait for things to be perfect, and don't wait for the technology to be there. Like, just get started. And whatever's missing, see how far you can push it off, because it's probably going to be developed in a week. But also try not to reinvent the wheel, right?
Of course. And then as you're going through the prompt engineering process, do you have any advice for getting the most out of your prompts when you're using these systems?
So if I'm coding, for example, I will be very specific about what languages I want to use. And I will keep telling it what languages I want to use, because oftentimes, like, I prefer, for example, TypeScript, right, in my Lambdas. And sometimes it usually defaults to Python, right? So I will tell, I use Kiro. So I'll tell it, use this language. These are the components I want you to build. I mean, I really think that you still need to know fundamentals about computer science to be able to build effectively. You're probably going to make a mess, right? You might build something that works, but you might make a mess if you don't understand the nuts and bolts, right? So it takes way less time, but you're still an architect. So you're telling it exactly how you think it should be built. And the best thing is to not try to build everything at once, because you're going to sit and test through things and run into hurdles and potentially have to fix the same mistakes in multiple places. So start small, be very specific, build modular components, and try to keep those isolated so you can mature them over time, because everything changes so quickly.
Zelle, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much. Amazon Bedrock AgentCore is available in preview today. You can check it out at aws.amazon.com. We have a getting started guide that can help you get off the ground very quickly, and a lot of example content out there to help you get started with Agentic AI. Zelle, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.